Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Casey Thronberg, and since you mentioned wages, I have a question for you.
Sure.
But first, I want to mention a few facts and statistics to provide context. So in the last year you worked at Pittenger Land Investments, you had a $3.7 million
No, so if
pay.
you'll read, that's already been public. Those figures are not related
Okay.
to what came out.
Okay, well, you were basically buying property and then reselling it to your investors. Like in Union County, you bought property for $1.9 million and then resold it that same day to investors for $3.2 million, 70% markup. But your first job was probably in the late 60s, early 70s, and the minimum wage back then, if it was adjusted for inflation, would be $11 an hour right now, or that's $23,000 for a full-time annual position. The actual minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, which is $15,000 annually. And that's basically a third less spending power than when you were first starting out. But you've voted against raising the minimum wage to $10.10. And a poll just came out in North Carolina earlier this week showing that 73% of the population supports raising the minimum wage. That's even 59% of Republicans support raising the minimum wage. And companies like it actually hurts taxpayers when the wages are so low, because corporations like Walmart, for example, we have to subsidize their employees through programs like SNAP and Medicaid. So Walmart cost taxpayers $6.2 billion last year because we have to pay for food stamps and Medicaid for their employees, while the Waltons, the 6 heirs, have $149 billion between just the 6 of them. And instead of voting to increase the wages, you do things like vote to cut SNAP. And like you voted to cut it by $40 billion over the next decade. And I don't know if you know this, but last year North Carolina was ranked 47th out of the entire country for food security. And 26.7% of our children are food insecure. But the cuts you voted for kicked 650,000 North Carolinians off of SNAP. 3.8 million people nationally got kicked off. It eliminated free school meals for 210,000 poor kids. It reduced benefits for 1.7 million people, and that includes 900,000 veterans. A recent Harvard study just showed that Charlotte has the lowest economic mobility ranking out of all the major metro areas in the country. But you voted to increase college loan rates by tying it to, yes you did, by tying it to the value of treasury notes, which are projected to increase to 7.7% over the next 3 years. You voted to end the estate tax, which only affected people inheriting more than $5.4 million. And that adds $269 billion to our debt over the next decade. The U.S. loses approximately $110 billion last year because of corporate tax havens offshore. You voted against a bill which would have prevented government contracts from going to those companies. You've repeatedly voted to weaken Dodd-Frank and attack the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which protects us from predatory lenders and fraudulent banking practices. And other than yourself, your largest campaign donors are the Koch brothers, who they're tied for the 4th wealthiest people. Yeah, $17,500 total. But they have $40 billion each, and they've pledged to spend $900 million on the next election. And my question for you, though, is do you think our political and economic systems disproportionately benefit the wealthy or corporations, or do you think we all have equal opportunity and income inequality is not a problem?
Thanks for your question. I assume you define yourself as a socialist.
I'm sorry?
This is all about class warfare. And what we want is a growing economy. What we want is an economy that creates jobs and opportunity and growth. We don't have economic growth. And I think what gets lost in this discussion is trying to make the class warfare argument. You have this, and that's not right. You shouldn't have this because this guy didn't have that. While I appreciate the sincerity that you add to your mission? The reality outcomes are what we're experiencing today.
Your land company bought land for $1.9 million, sold it that same day for $3.2 million. But you think 725 is more than enough for a fast food worker?
Sir, if you want to talk about economic reform in this country, right now we are living the realities of the Obama policies enacted between 2008 and 2010 through the Dodd-Frank Act and through the Health Care Act. They totally took over the systems and put oppressive rules on companies. Companies don't want to hire past 50 people, so they're not in compliance with Dodd-Frank.
Actually, you mentioned your lawsuit.
Can I finish the statement? I gave you plenty of courtesy. There are the policies that have been acted are what are constraining the growth. And your answer seems to be, let's weight down the economy, let's weight down small business with greater pressure. Chick-fil-A across the street. I had a little stack over there before I came here. They're all young kids working there. It's their first job, okay? You're going to run that up to $10 or $15 an hour? They're not going to have that. You know, they're not.
The 1968 minimum wage would be equal to $11, and
you know what they're doing now in some restaurants? You order by numbers. There's no more waiters anymore. They're bypassing this. They're getting ready for what's coming. You're going to lose jobs, sir, as a result of what you're doing. People won't have that startup job. They won't have that opportunity because it won't be available because they're going to cost.
Because corporations aren't profiting enough?
That's going to be passed on to the consumer. This is not just all of a sudden we're going to panacea, we're going to go fix it. No, you need a growth economy. This economy is stagnant, and it's stagnant because it's oppressive.
Relative to when you were my age, wages are way far down. And from 2010 to 2013, wages in North Carolina actually dropped by $3,000 for the median household income. So our wages are going down.
It's finally going back up. You know why? Because they cut the tax burden in the state. And jobs are coming back. Companies are coming back. There's announcements nearly every day in the paper of companies coming back. When I was in the state senate, North Carolina had the highest corporate tax rate, the highest marginal rate. That's a personal income tax rate of any state in the southeast. And I remember Kilbray, who was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, he had said, Robert, we are losing companies just right and left. They're going to other states because they don't have the oppressive taxes that we have in North Carolina. So finally, we got our head together. And the legislature lowered the tax burden, and now companies are coming to North Carolina. What's happening? Jobs are starting, and job growth starts, and as a result of that, wages.
You work for the federal government, not North Carolina, so let's talk federal taxes. Duke has had $9 billion in profits from 2008 to 2012. They have paid $0 in taxes. Everyone here has paid more taxes than Duke has.
There's about 10,000 attorneys in Washington, D.C. who do carve-outs, okay, for the special interest. I oppose every bit of that. I want a fair tax code for everybody, and we're not going to have it today under this climate. We have to rewrite the tax code, get rid of all that, reduce all these carve-outs for these other companies, and lower the tax burden for everybody. But remember something as well. We have the highest corporate tax rate of any country in the industrialized world, 35%. And that is a great disincentive.
There's an analysis of 288 of it, Fortune 500 companies that showed the effective rate was 19.4%.
Because the cost of doing business in the United States, cost of Obamacare, the cost of the
effective tax rates are nowhere near 35%, and you know that. I just told you Duke paid $0 in taxes.
35%. Every one of these companies that left. Why would they leave the United States?
I just told you Duke paid $0 in taxes. There are many other corporations that pay $0 in taxes.
Did a lot of write-off and a lot of community support. I haven't looked at their tax thing, but as I told you, I'm getting rid of all the carve-outs.
Yes, give an editorial. Again, I'm Ed Mesco. Yes. No, not too old. How they get home to mom, we're old, we go to bed early. But anyway, I read Will and Ariel Durant's History of Civilization. They also wrote a book, The Lessons of History and History of Philosophy. In the history of philosophy, they say politics is one field in the study of philosophy. It's philosophy, ethics, aesthetics, logic, metaphysics. In philosophy, in politics, it's another field. In history, they've studied history and they've determined, and it's been proven, that democracy is the best form of government. It's a lousy form of government, but every other form of government is worse. Socialism, monarchy, communism, despotism, everything is worse. Socialism has great ideas, but if you're a human, it's not going to work. Now, democracy is codified in our Declaration of Independence. It is codified in that. Republicans are for that. Democrats are not.
Bullshit.
Hush,
Excuse me,
I'm talking.
Bullshit.
I'm talking. When it's your turn to talk, I will listen with open ears.
I carry the
Speak
Constitution.
up. I will listen with open ears and not an open
Christian,
mouth.
Christian,
Democrats are not-
Christian,
Quiet.
remember your name, Christian,
That's,
okay?
that's ridiculous. That's why you're going to.
And I'll go back to what Jefferson said. Beware of big government. Big government was the New Deal. It did not work. Big government was Johnson's Great Society. It made things worse.
I'm not a
Big,
socialist.
hush, I'm talking. Big government was Obama's plan. It did not work. Best thing is democracy. There are lots of faults in it. It helps this young man up here, he is a young man, make a nice profit. That's part of the tax code. You want to change the tax code? Change the tax code. Go through the House and through the Senate, write it up, change it. I'm looking for a new tax code. You wrote a lot of, you made a lot of points. Good. I'm sure these guys copied them down somewhere. That's fine. But listen to what Jefferson says. Beware of big government. It's been proven that big government in Europe, in Russia, in China does not work. Democracy does work. It is in the Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, and it's fulfilled in the Constitution. And for all the problems that we had, America has been the country that has exhibited the greatest growth in the past 200 years. And we get this guy out of the office and get an American in there, and then we'll have more growth.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's been a great discussion. Take this with you, not any party line, affiliation, or anything. This is what we want to do to serve you. And we look forward to serving you any way we can. This is not a campaign card, it's a constituency card. Whether you get Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, veterans benefits, passports, visas, whatever. Your friends or whoever, take this with you, and we'll look forward to helping you with it. Thank you. God bless you.
Perfect.